and then I'll have it on Moodle for the students.
Okay.
So I want Candace to kind of talk to you. She kind of has a dream. She volunteered at Hope House Detroit when she lived here, and I want you to tell them about that first.
Okay.
And then maybe Candace, go ahead and tell them about kind of where you are now and what has been going on.
Okay. When I lived when I worked at Rochester, we always had a group of students who actually went down to Detroit often. But about 10 years ago, Hope House Detroit was started by a couple who actually live outside of Ann Arbor. I don't remember where, but they were visiting a church in downtown Detroit, which they kind of fell in love with. And they couldn't get over how diverse the church was. It had doctors, but it had homeless people. It was in a very dilapidated part of Detroit. And so they decided to buy a house about 3 houses away from where the church was. And it was, they got a great deal, but the houses over there were, needed a lot of work. So they bought the house thinking that they would start a children's program. And they had to renovate the house first. And anyway, they started with a program called Read Around the Block, and their desire was to partner with the local elementary and to bring in volunteers to sort of be reading buddies once a week. And they really did all this with volunteers. And I happened to know a few people at the church, and so I met them, and they asked me if I would volunteer and lead the Read Around the Block program. So I leave work early, and they sort of trained me through the process of how they got their students. We served about 12 to 15 students every semester. And the students would sign up. We'd get permission from their parent or guardian. They would come and we would feed them. Then we would go into a program. We'd read together. And then each student actually had been, tested to see where they were reading level wise. So every student had a folder, and every week their reading buddy read with them, made some notes in their folder. And then at the end of the program, we did something fun, like we played a game or whatever. So we were there about an hour and a half. Sometimes we did a craft, sometimes we played a game. But I just fell in love with it because so many of these students had such unstable family life. A lot of them lived with a grandparent, or they were moved, like they might be with their dad, they might be with their mom. I was also amazed that we gave them a snack every week, and some of them wouldn't eat at school because they were bullied. And so they really couldn't wait to get the snack. And I just learned a lot about them, and it was a great opportunity, I think, just to be a good neighbor. They lived in the neighborhood, and so eventually many of the neighbors in that area came to see Hope House Detroit as that. They eventually started 2 mentoring programs. They had a boys club, a boys group, and a girls club. They did a computer evening class for anybody. They did Saturday programming. Eventually, they purchased another house about 3 houses down. They called the Hospitality House. And Rochester at one time was very connected to them.
Yeah.
We would go down and do a spring break mission down there and stay at the Hospitality House for a week. And we would do projects in the neighborhood or even just in Detroit. Then they purchased the lot behind the Hope House, and they leveled everything, and they put in a gated park, so kids from that area could come at certain times, and it had everything in it. It had a swing and place to play. So anyway, And the reason, my desire is not only to learn what it means to be a good neighbor and to provide that kind of support for a neighborhood, but I think college students need the opportunity to live in a place like that where they can think about what they can do to bring the neighborhood closer together. So about almost 10 or 12 years ago, I had written a proposal for Rochester. It was called the Community Living Project. And it was about students choosing to live in a community, a house, where they would figure out what project they wanted to work on in a year's time span that would help the neighborhood. So this is kind of brings that together, because my desire here is to do something very similar as what Detroit has done, but Hope House also uses interns, so college students can apply and they can live at Hope House and they can run one of the programs or be a part of a program. So my desire is really to marry those two. I don't think those of us who've lived a fairly privileged life understand what it means to purposefully live in a neighborhood where you're looking to figure out how you can be a good neighbor, whatever that means. Most of us want to live in a really nice neighborhood that sort of gives us status. And I think as Christians, part of what we need to do is put ourselves in the middle of the struggle of life. And so for me, Hope House Montgomery will be very similar to what Hope House Detroit is doing. I will really try to focus on getting college students to live in the house for a semester or two and help run the program so that they have that experience.
So Candace is wanting to start a Hope House in Montgomery, and she has started the paperwork, the legal stuff that she needs to do. Tell them kind of what, well, first of all, Candace is the what's your title?
Assistant Vice President of Student Service for Student Services at Faulkner University.
Yeah, so she's at Faulkner University, which is in Montgomery, Alabama, and it's a little bit bigger than we are.
Right. We've got about total, we have about 3,000 students.
Okay.
We have a law school, we have graduate programs. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's traditional, probably, we only have about 1,000 traditional students.
Okay.
Yeah.
So about like us, but then it's very, it's a lot more conservative than Rochester is. And they have to go to chapel every day and all that kind of stuff. But that's not the point. So she works at Faulkner, but has this on her heart that she wants to start Hope House Montgomery. And so tell us kind of what you've done so far to get that off the ground.
Yeah, so I actually met with Becky and Gary, who are the founders of Hope House Detroit, and told them what I wanted to do. And so they shared some of their documents with me as well. Like they have a board. They shared their, in order to be a 501(c), you have to incorporate legally. And so you have to have bylaws, you have to have a board, and you have to have how you're going to run the board, how you're going to run your finances. And so I hired a lawyer about 4 weeks ago, and they are working on the articles of incorporation that we would submit to the government that would help us become a 501(c)(3), which allows us to take donated money tax-free, basically. And I also purchased the domain for our website. I haven't gotten the website yet, but it's hopehousemontgomery.org.
Okay, good. 'Cause that's one of the things that we will build that we will
Right.
want to help you with.
Yeah, so I purchased the domain, so I would have that. And I'm working now on getting some board members. So I'm trying to talk to a few of my friends who I know have interest, and I'm trying to create a diverse board. I don't want a big board, but I want people who I think have the kind of are interested in the direction that I'm interested in helping the neighborhood. You know, this isn't a huge nonprofit. It's not going to serve a lot of people, but it's going to serve one neighborhood, a school or a couple of schools.
Have
So
you picked out a neighborhood?
I am looking at one here called Highland Park.
Okay, yeah. I want the students to do some demographic
Okay.
research. So it's a neighborhood called Highland Park.
Right.
Maybe Candace, we can maybe Google it, but maybe you could give us.
Yeah, I will
addresses
kind
or-
of show you the district that it's in. That's the one I'm looking at. It's not too far away from here. And I kind of want it central where I think students would have interest also, you know, that it wouldn't be too far if they were students. We have 5 universities and colleges around Montgomery. So we are very much, entrenched with college students, which is a good thing for me.
So I think one of the things that what I'm seeing this project for us being is that we're helping you. She's just now getting this all started.
Right.
So we basically have a blank canvas to kind of suggest things to help her so that when she is ready to start getting students to be interns, people to volunteer, people to donate money, we have some messages and some, you know, some blog articles written, a video, maybe just of Candace sharing her heart, what's on her heart, what she wants to do with this, so that she can get this off the ground. So Casey's walking in. So so Candace, tell us, so can you name the other universities that are there? I want them all because we're putting together a plan for you, and they need to have demographics. And so tell them the names of the different universities.
Yeah, so we have a historically Black college here called Alabama State University, and it's very close and very well known in this area. We have Huntington. It's Hunting. I think it's DON, but they're also affiliated with a church. I'm not sure. We have Troy University, and there's a couple more actually. There's Auburn at Montgomery, which is an arm of Auburn from Auburn, which is only an hour away. And I think there's one more. I can't think of it. But they're all fairly, I mean, they're not huge either. So anyway, I don't know what else I'm supposed to tell you.
It's an ice on your source. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to go answer a question or two.
Okay.
So you told them about the different universities.
Yeah.
Also tell them about your church that you have already approached. I'm looking at they all have to do a SWOT analysis. And so some of the strengths that Candace, she's already talked about the strengths of having all the universities there. Also, you know, so that she can have volunteers and interns and things like that. But another partnership that she has is her church. So talk about that.
Yeah, the interesting thing is the church I go to is actually in Prattville, which is about 9 or 10 miles outside of Montgomery. Montgomery's not huge. I want to say there may be 350,000, 400,000 is the population here. It's kind of spread out in some ways. But Prattville is also a fairly large community. The church there is called Hunter Hills Church of Christ. And they're kind of laid back. They're not super Church of Christy, if I can say that.
I would say that probably of all the students in the class, I don't know that any of them have
any idea.
A strong Church of Christ background. Yeah. Taylor might know a little bit, but that's about it. So
so they are, our church is really, I mean, every Sunday, the thing that we say when we leave is, you know, you're sent out into the world to be the hands and feet of Christ. And so it is about learning to be a good neighbor and serving everyone. and, not being judgmental, but being very ecumenical, meaning including all faiths. So it doesn't matter whether you're, Catholic or Episcopalian or Church of Christ, whatever, that, we have this commonness of Christ. So our church, I think, is, I don't know, very embracing, and what I'm doing goes along with who they are. So I think they have interest in figuring out too, maybe how their high school students could be involved. We're not a huge church, we probably have about 250 members. But we have a great diversity in age. We have older, but we have a lot of young people. We have a lot of young families. Yeah.
Now, are you thinking about maybe partnering with local schools as well?
Yeah. So my next step is, once I decide on the area, and I would like to go visit with a couple of the principals in the area just to find out what their needs are. There's several places that do after school programs, even the schools. One of Faulkner actually partners with a school in the South, an elementary called Davis, and they're a very poor school, and they have their own after school program. And so as soon as school's out, there's probably 70 kids who stay, and there's teachers who are paid to do an after school program for them, and they stay until their parents get off work. So I want to see what the need is,
This area of Montgomery, I take it it's a poor neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we might be able to find some demographics and some information about that.
Yes.
So,
the closest high school, there's a high school there, Robert E. Lee, and I think they're getting ready to change the name.
Good. Good.
And I can't remember the name of the elementary, but it's in that area. So I need to look and see. But yeah, so my desire would be to see what schools are in the area, because at Hope House Detroit, they really worked through the schools. Like when Becky was starting Read Around the Block, she met with the principal of a couple of the schools, and that's where they passed out their applications for the program. So students knew, and that was, before they were established. They're a little bit more well-known in the area now, so they don't have trouble getting students to sign up. In fact, right now they have Read Around the Block twice a week.
Wow.
But initially, you would obviously have to partner with some schools, so you could, you'd have to have release from parents to have kids in your house, in your home. So that would be important.
Okay. So I think for the students, I'm going to take it where I can see everybody now. For the students, they're going to need to come up like with the situation analysis that you would come up with for your media plan is basically that Candace is wanting to start Hope House Montgomery, and that it is based upon what Hope House Detroit has done. So it's kind of like the model for what she wants to do there. And that she's already got the nonprofit paperwork. Did you call it a 5013C?
It's called a 501c3.
C3, okay.
C3.
I had my 3 and my C mixed up.
Yeah.
So your situation analysis at the very beginning of your media plan is just talking about that. And then the SWOT analysis is where you're thinking, what are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? Weaknesses probably, Candace, would be that this is brand new.
Oh, yeah.
You're having to build it off the ground.
Right.
That kind of thing would be your weaknesses. Opportunities, though, a lot of times the weakness and the opportunities, they are the strengths and weaknesses, they kind of offset one another.
Right.
So it also is an advantage that nothing's in place because she can make it what she wants it to be. So, so the threats might be, just all the work that's going to take to get this out. And what I'm seeing that we want to do with our media plan is basically communicate once she's ready. We're going to get this all built so that once she's ready, we can communicate and try to get donors, volunteers, interns, and students that want to help. And then also help you with your messaging, with your logo, your branding, all that type of stuff as well. Okay, so students, do you have any questions for Candace? They still all need to, they just got the information Sunday from me, so they still have to kind of get up to speed.
Okay.
I'm giving them some examples. They're all going to be looking at Hope House Detroit, its website, all that it's doing.
Yeah, and I am sort of stealing their mission, which is
Okay.
very simple, and it's just about creating, children and youth, helping them reach their potential. And so
do you have anything written up yet that you have put together for your lawyer, or is it still all in the works?
It's still all in the works. They have it right now. Yeah. But my mission is, I basically took it right from House Detroit.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we're like writing and directing, like kind of like our message and things, like, do you want it for right now to be like towards like donors? Like, is like fundraising like a big like?
I think that's true for every nonprofit, that, you're telling this story that sort of captures them in a way that says, I want to be a part of this. So yeah, and volunteers would fall into that, because they may say, like, I don't have the money, but I would love to be a part of this story. So yeah, I would say you're going to gear it towards, you're trying to tell my story in a way that's capturing people who want to give and people who want to volunteer.
Yeah. So do you think, so once you get the board and all that set up, you're going to, and have some financial, you're going to buy a house
right
down the road. You're going to buy a house. Are you going to live in the house?
I will eventually. Yeah. Once it gets renovated.
Okay. So they would have to renovate the house.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I'm sure you'll need volunteers and donors for that.
Right.
And then you would live in the house and then be neighbors and
right.
run the programming and the volunteers and the interns and all that kind of thing.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just think through timeline. Do you have, I know we're just right at the beginning of all this.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would love by next fall to at least, I'm hopeful that the house and the renovation could hopefully be done.
Okay.
The other thing I'm a little concerned about is jumping into programming too quickly.
Right.
Because I've read the book Toxic Charity. I don't know if you've ever read that book, but it's a great book. But it talks about how often, people who are doing charity work kind of go in and see themselves as the fixer. And I don't want to see myself that way. I want to go into a neighborhood. I want to be a good neighbor. I want to listen. I know I'm going to get as much out of it as they do. I don't want for them to think that I'm there to make their life great.
Right.
I just want to move in and see what can I do to support what's happening in their neighborhood that's good.
Right. So timeline wise, we're going to have to think through that about, as far as, the house and all that's going to have to be in place, but Candace is going to have to get support from people right now to help fundraise and to help people build the house or renovate the house and all that.
Yeah.
So it's really right now, I don't think, maybe down the road, our messaging would be more like to the neighborhood.
Right.
But right now, it's to help her get this off the ground, to get started.
So it is really what Taylor said. It is really going to be geared towards funding more than anything at this point.
Well, and volunteers. I mean,
right.
But that does come hand in hand a lot of times.
Right.
So, and do you, let me think. we talked timeline. We really don't have a budget yet. What we probably will do with our budget is that we will just talk about how much this would cost if we wanted to do it. But a lot of the things that we're thinking about would just be a website and maybe some social media and some blogs that would be on our website. So it would be pretty affordable at this stage just to do this kind of thing that we're thinking of. So we'll be talking. I'm going to be meeting with the students again after, like, in the next couple of days, just to help them guide their thinking about all this.
Okay.
And then we probably won't need to meet with you again until maybe toward, maybe a few more weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, something like that. Just if they have questions and need anything else. So, students, how are you feeling? Do you have questions? Are you feeling like you don't know where we're headed, or you feel okay? Okay, so what you need to be doing, actually, I'm going to let Candace sign off, and then I'll just finish up with the students. But Candace, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good to meet you
excited.
all.
Now,
thank you so much.
Talk about the logo. You like the Hope House Detroit logo, or can you come up with?
I do, but they really took the house that they purchased.
Okay.
And it is that. So it could be something different until, I'm open.
We may come up with just lots of different things, and you can decide if you like any of them. Do you have any favorite colors or anything that you're thinking?
No, not really. I do love their tagline, which is real.crazy.love.
Right.
And you'll see that when you go on their website. But I really like that. So.
Okay. And they have told you that you can use all that?
Yeah, they said I can use whatever I want. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any documentation from them that would be helpful to us on an internal level?
The stuff they sent me was mostly for their board, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
The other stuff that I have used is just some of their programmatic stuff.
Okay.
Which is how they run their programs, which
is down the road a little bit further. So
but when you go on their website, you'll see their mentoring groups, which is girls club and boys group. And one of the things I do love that they've done is if they've tried something and it hasn't worked, they just kind of drop it and move on to something else.
Okay.
So they've really tried to meet the needs of the kids that live in their area. So, yeah.
As far as you know, are there any other organizations in the area that you're looking at going into? Doing stuff?
There are I heard of one yesterday. I think it's called the Mercy House, but they really work with homeless.
Okay.
And so it's not really a neighborhood thing.
Okay.
And, I'm really looking at serving, just kind of a district, not even, I think of a school district almost. So I'm not really looking to serve all the homeless. I'm just looking to serve this group. Yeah. So it's pretty specific. So I haven't seen anything else like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, you guys, we'll just a few more minutes. Let me stop recording. We don't need to record this.